What's up, guys? This is a quick video. Well, it's probably not going to be that quick, but try to get some quick thoughts out of the way regarding this whole Gennady Lara and Gennady Golovkin fiasco now. I haven't made a video in a while, and originally I wasn't even going to comment. But apparently people think that this fight is getting closer to being made. Some people, anyway. Some people think it's a realistic fight. Could be, might not be. Basically, the reason why I want to get into it is because I've seen a lot of talk about it during the past couple of days. And people have just been asking a lot of questions. Some of the questions that have been going around that I've seen are, is Gennady Golovkin ducking Gennady Lara? Is Lara sincere in calling out Golovkin? Does he really want that fight? Who would win the fight? Etc., etc. Now, I have a couple answers to some of these questions. Potential answers, anyway. First of all, is Golovkin ducking Lara? In my opinion, no. In my opinion, no. First of all, I never understood how people claim you're ducking a fighter who's not in your weight class. Gennady Lara is a 154-pounder. In prize fighting as a professional fighter, he has not, in my knowledge, competed at 160 pounds, ever. I believe the Canelo fight was a catch weight. If you want to, I think he fought at a Canelo weight, and if you want to say, because that's above 154, that he campaigned at middleweight, okay, I guess. So, how Golovkin would be ducking a guy who's on his weight class, not only not in his weight class, but belongs to a different promoter, and we know the politics of boxing. A guy who's not even a titleist, at least not a major title holder, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't think Golovkin's ducking Lara. I don't think Golovkin needs that fight. I wouldn't mind the fight at all. I would not mind the fight at all. I don't think he needs it. I don't blame Lara for calling him out. Let's not fool ourselves and think that fighters make fights. If fighters made fights, I think we would have already had Canelo Golovkin, because I don't think Canelo's scared of Golovkin. I think some more fights would have gotten made. Promotional issues, in my opinion, are what prevent fights, not necessarily the fighters themselves. In some cases, it is the fighters themselves. In a lot of cases, I don't think it is. So, I don't think that Lara's scared of Golovkin. I don't think Golovkin's scared of Lara. If we're up to them, I think that's a fight that could easily get made, but there are promotional issues at hand, and we can't ignore those. That's one thing. Now, I've seen the question, as I've said earlier, why do people get mad that Gennady Lara is calling out Golovkin? Where's the anger in that? And they make a decent point that you got fighters in his own weight class who are ducking him blatantly. Obviously ducking him, don't want to get in the ring with him. Why are you getting mad at somebody who actually wants to get in the ring? Well, there's a couple of answers here. One, Gennady Golovkin, like most other big names and stars in boxing, has a loyal, blinded by passion and admiration and love for their fighter type of fan base, who get angry when they hear you mention a fighter's name, but they didn't hear you simultaneously orgasm when saying that fighter's name. Because that's how crazy they are. You can't go by a fighter's diehard fan base. They're too biased. It doesn't matter who the fighter is. Take Floyd, take Ward, take whomever, Danny Garcia. You listen to those guys, you'll hate every fighter. You listen to a fighter's most diehard fan base, most unbiased, unobjective fans, and you will not like any fighter. So that's one thing. You got the blind fanboys who will just, every little non-positive comment that you can make is blasphemy. So that's one. Another reason, like I believe I also said earlier, a lot of people don't think it's sincere. A lot of people think he being Lara, is calling out Golovkin because he's aware of the politics of boxing, right? He's aware of the politics of boxing, and he's hiding behind his promoter. That could be true. I don't necessarily think it is. I think Lara would like the Golovkin payday more than anything. I think that he believes in his abilities and he thinks that he could win the fight and he could get another nice payday. As to why he'd call out Golovkin and not somebody like Julian Williams in his own division or whomever else in his division whom he could fight, maybe Demetrius Andrade. But, to say whether he's sincere or insincere, that's all speculation. We don't know. But people have that theory, and I don't necessarily blame them for it. Who can say, though? Who can really say? And here's another thing as well. Something that hardcore Golovkin fans and more moderate Golovkin fans share. And this doesn't just apply to Golovkin. This applies to all fighters and all haters of fighters. You have haters, for lack of a better term, that want Golovkin to fight Lara because they think Lara will beat him and they want to see him lose. Alright, cool. Here's the problem. These fans know, right? The fans of these fighters, the fans of Golovkin know. Golovkin goes out there, and if he beats Lara, the excuses are still going to reign in. They're still going to reign in. And, they'll say that Golovkin has a phony body, Lara will wash him. And if he goes in there and he knocks out Lara, and it's not very competitive, right? Let's say he knocks him out in the 7th round, every round before that, Golovkin's out working Lara and hurting him and clearly winning the fight. Well, then you don't give Golovkin credit. You give all the credit to Lara. He's so brave. He fought the toughest guy in the division for his first fight in that weight class. And he's a smaller guy. And this, that, and a third. Meanwhile, Golovkin gets none of those props. If anything, it's just him beating up on another small guy. And, they ain't trying to hear that. And that's the reality of these fans. Again, it doesn't matter on the fighter. The people who don't like Andre Ward, they will make all the excuses in the world to not give Andre Ward his props whenever he pulls off a great victory. And I'm not saying that he's pulled off a great victory since his return, because Paul Smith just didn't even give one fuck for that fight. He was a disgrace the way he showed up for that fight, the shape he showed up in. And Sullivan Barrera, a solid guy, but he's not a world beater, and nobody in their right mind thought that he would actually beat Ward. When you're talking about a pound for pound fighter and going up against just a solid guy in the weight class above, when the pound for pound fighter beats him, it's not a humongous feat. It's a solid win. I'm not trying to discredit Ward by any means, but I don't think anybody in their right mind is really trying to claim that win elevates Ward's status in the pound-for-pound rankings, like a win over Kovalev would. The fans know. These haters, you can't please them. There's always going to be an excuse when the fight doesn't play out the way they want it to. There's always going to be an excuse, and the fighter that they're criticizing won't get his props. That's just the way it is. And, that's to be expected. There ain't nothing you can do about that, so there's no point in even stressing over it. So I think that's one reason why certain Golovkin fans don't necessarily care for that fight. Excuse my dog barking in the background. Because he wins it, he doesn't get his props. And another thing is, look, he said his interests are unifying the division, right? Getting all the titles. Lara's not in that weight class, thus does not have a 160-pound title. So really, why would he fight him? But if you want to say it's neither here nor there, okay, no problem. Let's move on to the fight. I have a question. Let's pretend that this fight gets made. It gets signed. Erislandy Lara, Gennady Golovkin in the fall. Right? Let's say September. Okay, great. If you think Lara wins this fight against Golovkin, I just want you to tell me how. Answer this one question for me. How does Lara win that fight? Because I've seen a lot of comments, GG's overrated, Lara beats him, Lara easily whoops his ass, Lara destroys him, but no breakdown of the fight. You're not giving me any substance. I get your position, cool. Okay, you think Lara wins. Awesome, great. You made a prediction, good for you. Now, how does he win? Do you have an answer? And don't just say he outboxes him. I mean, come on, how much more general can you get? He outboxes him. Okay, how? What does Lara do to get the win? This isn't about me fanboying for Golovkin here. I like both the fighters. I used to be a huge Arislan Lara fan, and then I realized that he'll never give me everything I want from him. I see all the potential, all the ability, and he'll never live. There won't be a single fight where he lives up to it, unless it's against an opponent who he's completely sure he'll beat. And that's frustrating. He should have beaten Canelo easier. In my opinion, he did beat Canelo. He didn't get the decision. It shouldn't have been as close as it was. He should have beaten Carlos Molina. I don't think he won that fight, be honest. Lara will never fully live up to the potential and his abilities. It's not something he does unless he's fighting a guy like Jan Zavik. So how does he win that fight? I don't think he wins it personally. And I think a great outlier is the Alfredo Angulo fight. Angulo, who comes forward but is not as good at it as Golovkin does. He comes forward much more recklessly. He runs red lights. Golovkin doesn't always run red lights. He might run a couple here and there. He is going to get hit, but not as much as Angulo. And whereas Angulo was chasing Lara around the ring, right? Angulo is chasing Lara around the ring, and then he's going to move it to the ropes and throwing combinations to hurt him to the body. Golovkin won't be chasing Lara. He'll be cutting the ring off. And still be landing wicked body shots. And my problem with Lara, here's the big thing. When he gets chased over to the ropes, does he throw counter punches? Does he bob and weave, slip, roll punches, and come back with counter shots like James Toney against Iran Barkley? No, that's not what he does. That's not his game. What he does is he shells up and lets you get off. He lets you throw as many punches as you want, and then he'll try to circle out. But no counters come back. Rarely. I mean, maybe every now and then, but rarely do counters come back. That's going to work against Golovkin. That's going to work against one of the hardest punches in the game, who's always going to be on top of you, round after round, digging to the body, ripping to the head. And as we saw with Angulo, even if he can take those body shots initially, sometimes wheeling out, he'll get a little lazy, Lara will. That hand will come a little, will start to stray away from the chin and he can get clocked. Angulo dropped him with 2 left hooks. Golovkin is one of the best left hooks in the game. So I'm not trying to say that Lara has no chance against Golovkin. I'm not trying to say that by any means. But I just want to know, if you think Lara wins the fight, how does he win? And again, don't just say he outboxes him. What does he do? Is his movement going to befuddle Golovkin? Golovkin won't be able to cut off the ring, and he'll be able to pot shot Golovkin. Is he going to work behind the jab? Is it going to be mostly left hands? Is he going to be circling Golovkin and never let him set his feet? What's he going to do? I don't think he does much against Golovkin. I wouldn't mind the fight because I do think it'll be a good fight. And, the critics, while they're not going to give Golovkin his props, at the end of the day, they won't be able to say that Lara beat him. Unless he does, and then I'll be wrong, and I'll take that L. Right, I'll take that L if that's the case. But I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I understand why people get tired of Lara calling out Golovkin because it doesn't seem as likely. Now, maybe you can say Wade is a Heyman fighter. Heyman gave Wade to Golovkin. Sure. Does he want to feed Lara to Golovkin? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not throwing it out of the realm of possibility, but Lara ain't the same as Dominic Wade. Wade, he really didn't care about. It's like, if Wade somehow pulls off the upset, great. You have that, which you can now promote back on PBC. If he loses, nobody really knew that much about him anyway. No big deal. No harm, no foul. In fact, if he goes on a roll, you can maybe twist that and say, he only lost thus far to Gennady Golovkin, the best middleweight in the division. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the fight. Those are my thoughts on why people tire of hearing about Lara calling out Golovkin. Why people get so sensitive when Lara does it, because you got these fanboys who will just cry over every little criticism, or not even necessarily criticism, just any non-positive comment made about their favorite fighter. I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, I'm out here.